This right here is the one long conversation with your pal, Skip. Hi, Skip here, and we're doing something a little different today because we're going on a field trip to Movie Madness, where I will be interviewing the creator, inventor of Movie Madness, Mike Clark, who not only created this cathedral of cinema that we're going to be walking into, but also curated the extensive gallery of museum artifacts, of cinematic artifacts. It really is a fucking cathedral of cinema. Let's go over there. What do you say? So here we are, and check this out, man. This is the BizarroCon custom rack that was just put together to celebrate and get people to come to BizarroCon, where 8 of our members of the scene actually put down 4 of their favorite weird-ass movies to help give the community a sense of what it's all about, because this is what it's all about. And now I'm just going to take you through the store, and then we'll talk with Mike. Thank you so much for having me out here, man.
Oh, this is great.
I have a million questions about... okay, so you were in L.A. When the collecting movies bug began, or how did this happen?
I moved to LA right after I did a stint in the Army. I was in the Army. I used to train dogs in the Army, and sentry dogs, and worked on some training films and whatnot when I was over in Korea. And I really got a taste. I've had a taste for film from the very beginning. When I was a little kid, I got my 8mm camera. Like Steven Spielberg, I went out and filmed a lot of movies.
Beautiful.
And just always had that in the back of my mind. I wanted to be an actor when I was a teenager. And then I changed my mind a half a dozen times when I went into the Army. And then I decided I wanted to be working more on film. And the one area of film that really interested me the most was film editing. And I never really got acknowledged by it. I kind of like self-taught myself how to do it when I was working on little 8mm films and putting them all together and making it all come together. And
splicing by hand, right?
Yeah,
totally.
Splicing by hand. And I got a job over at a place called Films Incorporated right here in Portland, and over on Broadway, and they handled distribution for 16mm films to go out to the hospitals, high schools, and whatnot. And we had contracts with 20th Century Fox, MGM, had all their libraries in this compact rental store. And I went to work for them all the way up until when I went into the Army. And that's basically what I did, was do a lot of splicing, checking the prints out, inspecting them, making sure that the splices were going to hold up when they went out for rentals. And I actually, when the Shriners Hospital was here, I used to, every Friday night, I would take a movie like a Jerry Lewis movie or an Abbott and Costello or something that was fun for the kids, and I'd take it over to the Shriners Hospital and I would run it. And I brought the projector and I brought the film with me, the print with me. And it was really exciting. And I talked about the movie and about the making of the movie. And I read up on it before I actually introduced the movie to the audience, young kid audience.
Yeah.
And I really, like I said, I always had that in the back of my mind. When I got in the Army, I said, I'm going to spend 1 year in Portland, and then I'm going to take a vacation wherever I'm working. And I got a job at Portland National Film Service where they handled all the 35 millimeter rentals for all the different theaters throughout Oregon and part of Washington.
Wow.
And I was a shipper. I worked in the shipping department, and I also worked in the inspection department.
Okay.
And I did that for that whole year. When I got a vacation, I said, I'm going to give myself 2 weeks. I'm going to go down to Los Angeles, and I'm going to get a job. And I called a friend of mine who I was in the Army with. Him and his wife lived in Hollywood. And he said, oh, Mike, I hate to be a bitter bad news, but the only people that are working in the industry right now are the janitors. He said it's really going through a changeover, and the unions have taken over everything, and it's really almost next to impossible to get a job. And I said, well, I'm still coming down. I'm going to hit the pavement, and I'm going to look for work. And that's what I did. I spent a year, a week and a half. And I got a good feedback when I went over to the Fox television lot on Sunset Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard in Western Avenue.
Okay, yeah.
It was, there was lot 1, there was lot 2, and they had the set for Peyton Place and Daniel Boone and all those films that were television shows and films that were being done there. And I ended up getting a job working as an apprentice editor. And they needed apprentice editors because they weren't in the union. They hadn't been accepted yet in the union, so they could pay them what they wanted to pay them. They didn't have to pay them skill.
Right.
And so that's how I got in.
And this is like early 60s?
Huh?
Mid 60s?
This is 1970.
1970, okay.
First film I ever worked on was The City Beneath the Sea for 20th Century Fox for the television lot.
Amazing.
Irving Allen was the director.
Yeah.
And I never got to meet him, but I worked in this cramped little room where we broke down the dailies and assembled A and B rows and all like that, and just did a countless amount of work on it. And I'd get up to like 89 days, then they'd lay me off, and then they'd call me back a week later. So I had to work 90 consecutive days in order to be eligible for the union.
Right.
That went on for 2 years. I mean, I went to different studios. I went to Paramount. I worked on a Barbara Stanwyck film called The House That Wouldn't Die.
Yeah.
1971. And she was doing, at the time, she was doing the television series The Big Valley.
Right.
And so she came over, and I got to meet her and everything. And in those days, I used to smoke, so we shared a cigarette.
Nice.
I mean, I bummed one off for her, she bummed one off me. That was kind of a funny story. That was 1971. But anyway, it went on like that until about 1973 when I was eligible for the union. I finally made it to the union, and then my scale changed and workload changed, and I was in and out of work all the time, even more so than what I was when I was working as an apprentice,
right?
Because they were paying me differently, and they could use me and then work me up to 89 days and lay me off. When I was in the union, it was a whole different ball game.
Okay.
And sometimes I get laid off, and I took little jobs like negative cutting and stuff like that because I had experience at it. But I continued working in the industry, loving every moment of it, and then I landed my dream job at Warner Brothers. I was working as a post-production coordinator. Basically, what my job was to oversee everything that had to be done to get it ready for release.
Yeah.
And right down to the negative cutting, the lab work, the timing, doing the color corrections, everything that had to be done to get it to a show print quality, and they get it ready, because we used to do all these little sneak previews all over town.
Yeah.
Especially in Westwood at the Westwood Theater. It was like once a week we were doing a new film over there, or running a film.
Yeah.
Not necessarily one I was working on, but I handled a lot of different movies that were coming through the lot. And so from there, I went over to MGM, and MGM had a lab called Metrocolor Lab, and I was affiliated with them. They were like the middle, and I was here working on a movie that was brought to me, and then I followed it all the way through the end. And sometimes I'd have 3 movies under my wing, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and I learned a lot, and I was like one-on-one with the director, the cinematographer, the head film editor, all that stuff, and in the back of my mind, I used to rent movies all the time, and I used to go to 5 different rental stores to get what I wanted. There was a place near MGM that I used to get the classics at, and I'd go over there and I'd get a classic movie, and then I had to go to another video store to get a foreign film, and another one to get a cult film. And I said, God, wouldn't it be great to have a video store that had a little bit of everything? So I thought about this.
Yes.
And I gave myself some time to really think about maybe doing this and not having, I'm so tied up with my work. So I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So it just went on. It was always in the back of my mind. Then one day I was over at, I don't remember. I went over to Larry Edmonds' bookstore to get something. I can't remember what it was. There was a rare book that I had ordered, and I went over to get that. And when I noticed this big sign across the street over by the Groman's Chinese Theater that said on display, and it had all these different costumes that were on display.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I'm going to see what that is. And they asked me if I worked in the industry. And I said, yeah. I said, here's my union card. And they said, okay, well, you get half off for all union members. And I said, oh, great. And I went in there and I saw like the outfits that Clark Gable and Vivian Leigh wore, and the ballroom scene and Gone with the Wind. And I saw all these different things, like one of the dresses that Judy Garland wore. There was like 8 of them for The Wizard of Oz. And I got to see one of them and her shoes and all that stuff. And I just started thinking in the back of my mind, it was like 2 things going on. I said, wouldn't it be great to have a video store with a museum of movie history? So it was all tied together.
Yeah.
And so, but I wanted to concentrate one at a time. I said, first of all, I got to build what I want. And then if it becomes a success, I'll add all this onto it. You know, and it was like one after another. And that's what I basically did. I had this dream, and it became a reality. I got laid off. I got laid off because MGM was going under. They were going to go into corporate offices. The lot was being sold to Sony.
Yes.
Sony was taking it over. They didn't want to pick my... I had a contract with MGM. They didn't want to pick up my contract. So I was laid off.
Right.
And I get this offer from Universal Studios asking me, would I like to come aboard and work for them? And they were offering me a 3-year contract over 6-figure. And it was very tempting, very, very tempting.
I bet.
To jump on that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let me think about it. And they said, okay, well, we're going to have to make a decision soon, Mr. Clark. We'll give you 72 hours, 3 days. And it was right before the weekend. So my mom and dad were there. They were visiting from Portland, Oregon. I'm originally from Portland.
Right.
So mom and dad were there, and I get the phone call on Monday morning from her. Her name was Helen. And I said, Helen, I made a decision. And I said, I hate to do this because it really affects my future because I don't know how well I'm going to do, but I'm doing something that I'm going to do on my own.
Yeah.
And she said, so in other words, you don't want this job? And I said, no, I'm going to turn it down. And she said, okay, well, that's the end of that then.
Right.
And she said that to me, and I kind of it scared me. I said, does that mean it goes against me? What? I called the union up right away, and they said, no, just take a draw. Tell them, do you want to take a draw from the union, from us? And we could give you that draw. And anytime you want to come back to work, you only pay the dues that are due for that one term. You don't have to go all the way back and pay past dues of whatever it might be.
That's great.
And I said, okay. So I did that, and I took a draw off of the editorial department because that's what I was connected with. And I said, okay, I'm going to sell my home, and I'm going to go up there. I'm going to do this store. And it was all in the back of my mind. And then all of a sudden, I got a little cold feet when I got up here.
Yeah.
And it was right around the holidays. It was 1990, right in 1990, ready to go into 1991. I said, what am I going to do? We had the golf work going on,
Yes.
just started in January and February, and I didn't know what to do. And I said, I just said, you know what? I'm going to have to go with my heart. So I did.
Yeah.
And I started looking for locations. I said, I got to find the right location. There was a video store everywhere I looked. There was one on this corner. There was one. When I put the store in here, at that time, it was only 800 square feet. It was just the front of the store.
Wow.
Half of that was the store.
Wow.
And at that time, there was 55 rental stores in a 5-mile radius around Movie Madness. And I was worried to death. I said, you know, I'm going to really try to get the customers to come in here. I got to offer unique stuff.
Yes.
Stuff that you can't get anywhere else.
Yes.
And that's when I went in there with that drive. And I was that's what started bringing people in. Well, when I opened, this is a funny story, I'm going to tell you about this. I had it all in my mind. This is the location. I kept coming back to this one little storefront. And at that time, it was only half of this building down in the front was available. The other half, there was a guy in there that made toys for kids.
Huh.
He had a little wood carving company where he made these toys like rocking chairs and so. He had them displayed in the window on the other half of the building. And so when I went in, I absorbed, I had 800 square feet to work with. I opened up with 2,000 titles. I opened up on April 12th, 1991 with 2,000 movies. And they were all VHS. We didn't have, it was long before we had DVDs or Blu-rays or even 4Ks.
Right.
So when I went in here, that's what I had to offer. I ran the store by myself, didn't take any days off, didn't take any money that I was making. My first day, it was on a Friday, and I offered 2 for 1. In other words, you rent one movie, you get your second one free.
Right. For,
you know, whatever the value is. And it went over real well. And I made, the first day I made $178, and I was really happy. That was on Friday. Then on Saturday I made $155. I was still happy. Then Sunday comes along. Sunday I went down to $75. Then Monday I went down to $50. And it kept dropping, and I got all the way to Thursday, and I made $28 for the day. Ugh. And right away I went, yep. That was a bad idea. I just all of a sudden just saw the light. I said, that's a bad idea. My dad told me, he said, don't give up, son. Don't give up. Stay with it. You're going to be fine. And sure enough, he was right, because right when we hit that weekend, I went back up again. And I never saw anything below. It was like this store was a moneymaker to begin with. And I just concentrated on what's going to work.
Yeah.
I made some bad decisions thinking that this was going to work, and it didn't work. You know,
you gotta try shit.
Yeah, you try things and you keep going until you find the right niche. Mm-hmm. And then, so I was in business for I was going to give myself 5 years at this, and I get about 3 years into my business, I get a call from Los Angeles from a buddy of mine named Dennis McNeil. And he's a head timer for Deluxe General. And he works for the lab over there. He's one of the head people in the lab. And he called me up and he said, I got an offer to work on the Titanic. Would you be interested in joining me and being my assistant? And I said, God, what does it pay, Daddy? He says, it pays around $78,000. You'll be making about $78,000 for the duration of the 6 months we're going to be on the film. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, man, that sounded really good. I was very tempted. Yeah. But I told him I have to turn it down. I said, Denny, I got to stay with this baby. If I walk away with this. And he said, well, why don't you just have somebody that you trust, like one of your managers? I said, I can't do that. I have to be here. I have to make the decisions. If I leave here, that means part of me, that means that I'm not here, existing here, and it means the whole place could fall apart. Yep. A number of things could happen. And I said, no, I got to stay with it. And he tried to talk me out of it, but But he knew, Danny was a very good, close friend of mine. He's gone now, passed away quite a few years ago. But he said, stay with where your heart is.
Yeah.
And my dad said the same thing. And I'm glad I did, because in 1995 now, 4 years later, or 3 years later, shortly after that happened, I was dating this girl that wanted to go down to Las Vegas just to see what it's like. She'd never been to Las Vegas before. So we went down there, and they were having an auction at Caesar's Palace. Below in the not basement, but there's all these different shops down below.
Sure.
With the casino up above, and it's all down below.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a place called Antiquia International, and it was they had a live auction going on. They were doing a Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 auction.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it happened, but I sat there and I saw this dress that Diane Keaton wore in Godfather 2. And I remembered it. It always stuck in my mind. Isn't that funny how something can stick in your mind?
Yeah.
And it was the sweater, the blouse, and the skirt itself. It's on display there.
It certainly is.
Yeah. And I looked at it and I said, I got to have that. So I gave my credit card information, got a paddle with a number, and I started bidding on it. And because right now I'm making money on the store, so I have to do something besides buying more movies. I wanted to buy my first costume.
Yeah.
And I said it'd be really great to have Movie Madness now featuring Diane Keaton's original dress, Godfather 2,
Yeah.
right on display. So this is what I'm thinking. I'm like a showman. I want to reach out and grasp everything that's around me and pull it closer and give the people what they want to see.
Yeah.
And bring them in to see it. And that's where, and I started bidding. I said, I don't care. I said, I'm going to go as high as 5,000. If it goes past that, then it's whoever is past that, they're going to have it. It went to $3,500, and I ended up getting it. And they sent it up to me with the mannequin. It's not on the same mannequin it was on. It's on something else now. But I was so devastated, so happy that I got it. And I had it for several weeks. When it arrived, I had it right next to the counter where people could see it.
Yeah.
And there was little kids that were touching it and everything. It was really driving me nuts. So I said, I gotta put it in a case. So we put it in a glass case. We had a glass case built for it. And Lord and behold, just a few months after that, I get a phone call from Antiquia International. One of the other dresses that was in Godfather 2, worn by Tawi Shire, who plays the daughter.
Yep.
Also, that one didn't sell, and they wanted to know if I wanted to buy it. And I told them, I said, I don't know. And they offered it to me at $1,000. So I ended up buying it, and it's right next to Diane Keaton's dress.
Mm-hmm.
And then before that, the third thing that I got was right after Anthony Perkins died, I got the Psycho knife, because he owned that one knife. And it was used in 2 films. It was used in Psycho, the original, and it was used in Psycho 2.
No kidding.
And so and it's the only knife to exist out of all the knives that were used in the film.
Yeah.
So I got that, and then I just started buying from them. Shelley Winter's dress went up for not for an auction, but came into them, and they offered that to me from Place in the Sun.
Right.
And then I read this article about this woman that started from scratch. She was a nanny for Joan Rivers for a number of years. Her name was Marcia, and she started a company called Star Wares, and she had actual costumes and props that were used in films. So I started going to through Marcia. I met Linda Blair, and we became best friends. She's one of my best friends today. And I just started buying from Marcia. And then one day Marcia said to me, have you ever thought about doing auctions? You do better by going to an auction. And she said, one of the auctions I do, Marcia was telling me, was Profiles of History, and I also do Sotheby's, I also do Butterfield. Mm-hmm. And she said, sign up for their catalogs and just start going to the auction. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And then the collection came here. And so I'm really happy to report that I have a really nice collection. I did sell off a few pieces just recently.
Really?
Julian auctions. I had the original tap shoes that Jimmy Cagney wore in Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yeah.
I sold it for $22,000,
Nice.
so I can't complain about that.
Yeah.
I paid $8,000 for it, made a huge profit. But there are a few times that I will do that, you know. But anyway, I built this I built this store to where it is today, and then finally I think it was in about 2009 or 10.
Okay.
2010, I think it was. I started thinking about, we're hitting a point where this is the most I've ever made. 2010 was the most I ever made. But in 2011, I could see things were starting to come down because streaming was happening.
Yep.
And 2011, then 2012 was less, and it kept going less and less. It wasn't just a slow process; it was a fast process.
Yes.
Because this store, there was a time when I made over $1 million on this store.
Oh man.
Yeah, and that was 2010, and that was pure profit.
Wow.
So now I'm thinking ahead, and I'm going, God, we're really losing money. So I put it out there in 2016, 6 years later, or 5 years later.
Mm-hmm.
I put it out to the Hollywood and said, hey, I have this store. Do you guys want it? I'll sell it to you. So they couldn't afford it what I wanted, so they had to do a Kickstarter.
Right.
So we did a Kickstarter. They raised the money. They bought the store, and it was like a beautiful friendship. It's like that last line of dialogue in Casablanca, my favorite movie.
Yeah.
Louis, this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And now we're here today. I'm talking to you, and I love talking to you, and love telling my story of being proud to be the founder of this beautiful company that I created from the ground up. I didn't buy another video store and build it.
No.
I created this. This came out of my head. And I was like Walt Disney. I felt like Walt Disney. I said, now I understand what Walt Disney went through.
Right.
When he created Disneyland. Because he wanted Disneyland to represent his whole thought process of all these beautiful, beautiful rides he was going to create that's going to represent the characters that he created.
Yep.
That he's given us,
No, I hear you.
And that's how it all happened. And I'm proud of it.
No, and you should be proud of it. Again, I tell everybody this is like a cathedral of cinema. This is like I come here just kind of worshipfully and soak it in. And I think I told you the first month I came here, I rented like 50 movies. I was just inhaling the stuff.
See, I got two famous directors who read here. Gus Van Sant's one of them.
Right.
And Todd Haynes is the other, who's a personal friend of mine.
He's great.
And when Todd was getting ready to do the story about Dylan Thomas, I'm Not There.
Yes.
And when he's getting ready to do that, he came up to me one day and he says, Mike, have you ever seen this movie, Meet John Doe? And I said, oh, God, yeah, it's a great film. Good Frank Capra film. And he said, well, I'm trying to reach out because I'm making this movie and I want to get a feel of what it's like to work with every man, a guy that represents every man.
Yeah.
And different parts of his body, his soul. And these different characters are going to play these images of what makes him tick, like his heart, is he more on there's a feminine side to everybody, and he said, and I'm going to have somebody like Kate Blanchett played that role, which she did.
Right.
And in the film, and Richard Gere played a part in it, all representing Dylan at his best, and his genius side. And I just thought that was really cool because it makes me feel good that I have a store that is taking care of his needs, Gus's needs, all kinds of filmmakers, teachers, people that love and appreciate film like yourself, that come here for miles on end and continue the legacy of Reading here to keep the Hollywood, keeping this going.
Keeping it going.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to know, every time a friend comes into town,
right,
I bring them here.
Oh, absolutely.
And give them the tour and just let them soak in it. So let me ask you this. I mean, the store is so beautifully not only curated, but like laid out. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that the foreign section is broken down by country is so amazing, because that is not the norm, even in a good store.
Right.
And then the way that the horror section is broken down by subcategories.
Oh, yeah.
So much fun. And going through the classic section and seeing the directors that are spotlighted. I'm a Preston Sturges man myself.
Oh, me too. He's one of my favorites.
Favorites.
Yeah. He's the top of my list. One of the top of my list is an unknown movie of his, and you should see it if you haven't seen it.
Which one?
Is Hail the Conquering Hero.
I love
that stuff.
Yeah.
It's really loyal to the Marine Corps, and I love it. My brother was in the Marine Corps, so he loves that movie too.
Oh, it's great. It's great. I have a friend watching The Great McGinty tonight.
Oh my God, I love that movie. Brian Dunleavy. Oh, superb.
And
and all of his stock players that he always has in every one of his movies, like Frank Capra, they always, or John Ford, they always have those stock players, and they keep them rotating all the way through their movies.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that was one of the things that Preston got in trouble with the studio, was the one producer who was like, "I don't want you using your own guys all the time.
You got to use our guys."
Yeah. I have to say, if I ever got to remake one classic film for the 21st century, it would be Sullivan's Travels.
Oh, absolutely. Now that Sullivan's Travel is the top of my list. It goes like Sullivan's Travel, then Hail the Conquering Heroes, my second favorite.
Nice.
Preston Sturges. My third favorite, Great McGinty.
There you go.
And I mean, all three of them.
The top
and then
tier.
the Lady.
And then the Lady. Yeah.
Barbara Stanwyck in that. I love that.
I was going to say I'm such a Barbara Stanwyck fan between that one and what's
Stella Dallas.
No, the what is it? Ball of Fire.
Oh God, I love Ball of Fire. Now there's Howard Hawks.
Yep.
Another great filmmaker.
Yep.
You know. And I get off on all these guys and their vision and what they went for. When you look at the movies today compared to the movies of yesterday, there's no comparison.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think there are great people doing great stuff today, but it's all building on the shoulders of those guys.
Yeah,
you know?
And they are. And they wouldn't have been able to make the films, like Spielberg even said, that had been for John Ford and Francis. No, he's another one that came in here, Francis Ford Coppola.
Nice.
I had him here. I gave him a tour of everything. Well, it was kind of funny, though, because he said to me, he says, "You know what? I don't understand this." I said, "What's that?" And he said, "These costumes and props." He said, why are people interested in that stuff?" He said, "When I get done with the movie, I'm done with it." And he said, just in those words. Yeah. And I looked at him and I said, I don't understand. I said, "I've been to your winery, the one on Highway 101 and in Petaluma, and you have a winery up there, and you got like the desk that Marlon Brando was sitting behind. You got one of the Tucker automobiles there.
Oh, nice.
On display. You have costumes and props that were used in everything from Apocalypse Now to Godfather 1, 2, 3, all that stuff." And he says, "I know. That's because of my wife, Eleanor. She's the one that likes to keep that alive. And that's her passion. But my passion is that once I'm done with the film, I'll talk about it. I'll introduce it. I'll let people see it. And if they want to know things about it, I'm there to answer it. But as far as the background, what they're wearing and all that stuff, they're done. It's over there. I don't care anymore."
Now, but here's the thing. he might be done, but we're not, because
No.
we love the movies and we
love
care
the movie,
about that
and
stuff.
it's part of the film.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at the film, what they're wearing is on the silhouette, you know?
Yep. No, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And again, I'm a big Coen Brothers fan, and there would be no Coen Brothers without Preston Sturges.
I could not agree with you more. They are amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. And P.T. Anderson, another one that's today's Anderson. I mean, he is out of all the directors today, he's my favorite one that's working. Him, Nolan,
Nice.
and Fincher, David Fincher.
He's a great director.
Those are his film version of the Zodiac blew me away.
It's astonishing.
Blew me away.
Yeah.
And part of it was, I mean, that scene in San Francisco up there on Cherry and Washington Street, they created that over at the airport in what's the name of that small little town over there? And starts with a D. I can't think of the name of. I want to say it's over there. It's way over there by Garden Grove, and I can't think of the name of it. But
Okay. Yeah, me either.
I can't think of the name. But anyway, he created at that little airport. It was like a Van Nuys airport. You know, he created that scene.
Right.
And if you're looking at it, you're going, my God, no, it's just like it looks now. You know what it looked like back then in the '60s. Guy was amazing.
Was amazing.
Another amazing filmmaker. You know.
They keep doing it, and I mean, Hollywood is in a really weird place right now.
Yeah, it is.
But you know, things go up and things go down.
Yeah.
I have a feeling, and again, I just have a feeling that people are going to want to spend time together watching movies again. That streaming is a self-limiting phenomena. I mean, they're basically running shit into the ground with it. And
yeah.
But we love movies, and we love the stories. You know.
Exactly.
So film will find a way.
Yeah. Well, I know that this what I created here will live on forever. It'll always be here. I know that they're moving. You know that,
yes.
Right? And I understand where they're coming in because they're running out of room.
Yeah.
And basically, this used to be part of behind the counter,
right,
where we're at. And they wanted to build a screening room, so they took part of it. Well, now they're running out of room where this ends at. And so I can understand them wanting to move because I own the building. And they've offered to buy it from me, but I won't sell it. It's my it's my livelihood, okay, so to speak, you know. But with them moving, it's I hate to see that happen because there's a lot of history where we're sitting right now.
Absolutely.
You know, and
Absolutely.
And a lot of beautiful memories are right here. And it's going to be different to see it in its new locale, but it will live on.
And it will be amazing. And I think the one thing that I will grant it is that they're making that little chunk of Sandy like the cinema hub.
That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm for that. I mean, cinema is very important. And I can see, because the Hollywood Theater is celebrating its 100th birthday.
Amazing.
Next year. Will be 100 years old. And they're going to run the original silent film that was run there when it first opened. They're going to run it.
Wow.
And I think it opened in July 26, 2000, or not 2000, 1926.
1926.
Something like that. I can't remember the exact date. It was either in June or July that they opened it in 1926.
Wow.
And that silent film that ran at that theater is going to be they're going to run it. They're going to do a reenactment, which I think is going to be great.
It really is.
You know, and as far as it moving, I still got maybe a couple more years that they'll be here. So I'm real happy about that.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a while for them to get over there.
Yeah.
But once they get over there, I support them wherever they are. I will support them. I gave this company the name it has, and I gave it the life that it was
has.
born into.
Yes.
And it continues to this day. And I could not have done this store at all if it hadn't been for the many people that I hired over the years. They came up with great ideas. For example, the horror section where you have little two heads are better than one. You got a two-headed guy walking around.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give an example, or bad scientists went haywire, or whatever.
Nature run amok.
Yeah, exactly. And my staff are responsible for a lot of that. I'm responsible for some of it, but I couldn't have done it without them. I picked the right people to come into here. My nephew right now, you interviewed him.
Yes.
He's running the business now.
I got to say, every single person working here is a class act.
They are.
Yeah,
I give them all a thumbs up.
I love
all the
these
way.
guys.
Thumbs up.
Yep. And I got to tell you, in 24, I directed a feature here in Portland.
Really? What was the name of it?
It's called The Great Divide. It's a kind of a class warfare comedy. It has not been released yet, but I screened it here for Movie Madness University, and it was so much fun to show it in this room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was
I'd
a
like
real
to
honor.
see it sometime.
I would love to show it to you.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that.
It's very much inspired by screwball comedy, although it is not exactly a screwball comedy. It's about when the world's richest old lady dies, the rest of her family gets together to figure out who gets the biggest slice of the pie. Right. So it's an ensemble cast, like 21 speaking parts. I joined an acting class because I wanted to be a better director of actors.
Right.
And then I fell in love with the actors in the class. And they're always like looking for scenes and monologues to do. And I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to write you a feature with great roles that are suited to each of you. And we had the best time. And then screening it in here was just glorious.
Oh, that is so great.
Yeah.
It's so great. Yes, I would love to see it. So.
We will work that out. We will totally work that out. And I can't think of anything else I want to ask you.
Well, I can't think of anything else I want to add except that this is such a pleasure meeting you.
Absolutely.
And I follow your articles and stuff too. You're really quite a writer.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, then...
when Matt told me that you were coming to interview, I said, oh, Matt, he's somebody. He's somebody famous. That's how I called you. Famous.
Ta-da! Sir, such a pleasure.
Pleasure meeting you, too. Anyway, I just want to say welcome to Portland, and I'm glad you're living here now, and cinema is your back pocket, is your heart, and there's a lot of good films in this store that you haven't even discovered yet, but you will.
Oh man, I'm still scratching the beautiful surface.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
My questions are: how does it feel working in a cathedral of cinema?
It feels really, really awesome. I think that I feel like while we are a nonprofit and while people are coming in and buying movies or renting movies, it does feel like an archive. There's a lot of out-of-print titles that we have where, I don't know, I was just listening to a podcast where they were talking about The Heartbreak Kid. That's an out-of-print title because a pharmacy company owns the rights to that. And it's just held up, it's suspended in that. So, like,
wow.
I don't know, I think the thing that's kind of horrific but also really cool that we exist to me is that if a title is out of print and it's not on a streaming service, then there's it's either really inaccessible to buy that or to find a way to access that or to see a good quality or a good resolution of a movie. And if a movie's on a streaming service and it's out of print, who's to say how long it'll stay on there based on how many people are viewing it. And so I think that this place to me feels like a tactile archive. The movies here and the stuff we have here isn't dictated by how popular or not popular it is. It is just here. It is here for people to come and view and to see. And I think that it's really awesome to work here because when you have people coming in, you get to see almost not a paper trail, but you get to see, we have some really voracious customers who come in and have ideas in mind, or you can see what what decade or what director or like what something they're thinking about. You can like literally see like a trail of movies.
Yeah. You should see mine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
I'll look it up right now. But yeah, I think it feels incredible to work here. One, just for the movies and the access and the archive setting. Two, I think the people that come in, that is the heart of the store. I think that like a lot of the people that are coming into the store, it's awesome to see new people coming in and setting up accounts, but you have the steady beats and rhythms of people and their lives coming in, and it's cool to be in conversation. It's cool to like, I don't know, everybody has something to say, everybody has something to like learn from other people.
Yep.
And so I think being in this sort of community, it feels unreal at points. But I love working here.
I can only imagine. I mean, I have such a great time every time I come in and talking with people who love movies and just talking about and how it spins into life, you know, because movies are just kind of mirrors of all the aspects of life. It's a beautiful thing. So I got to ask you, do you have like a favorite part of the store?
Favorite part of the store, I feel like not necessarily my favorite, but whenever I am trying to figure out something to put on the screen, if I don't have like a specific movie in mind, I always go back to the Demented Kids section in the back, because that kind of feels like a loophole of you're able to play some stuff that feels kind of heinous, that feels like how are we showing this to kids back in like 1980 or whenever something came out, it feels like a loophole because it is the rating is G or PG,
right?
That you're seeing some stuff where you're like, this does feel a little bit like nightmare fuel at points. I don't know if that's my favorite section. I do really like the independent filmmaker section. I feel like that was like one of the first places that I came in and started to look when I was like a customer here. And I think that to me serves as like a jumping off point in terms of like kind of branching out like what I'm seeing, and like I think that it provides a lot of context not just for independent filmmakers but like as a response to the Hollywood system.
Yes.
I think that's my favorite section.
Fair enough.
It's pretty awesome.
And do I have one other question? What made you fall in love with movies in the first place?
I think that movies, I was just talking to my friend about this the other day. Movies are like a moment suspended in amber.
Yes. You're
putting on your glasses for like, even like they were playing a new Leaf out in the lobby. You're putting on your glasses for like 1970, I can't remember the exact year, but you're like putting on your glasses for that moment in time, the context, the social and political context as to like how this movie was made, like why it's such a big deal for Elaine May to be like emerging in comedy, what comedy looks like at that time. I think that movies serve as like you're peering into a time and place that isn't necessarily like current or present, but you're able to glean so much. And I think that like, I don't know, to me the 80s is such a fascinating like moment to go back and look at, because I think that like even in like a political context, a lot of the things that were happening then are circling back now.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's like built, like the foundation is built, and I think understanding this current moment, you do need to go back in time and look. And I think that movies, instead of like looking at a wall of text or looking at it's a short form, more accessible and more digestible way for people to understand moments in time. That's kind of what made me fall in love with movies, because I was like, this is like an endless pursuit to try and understand more.
I couldn't ask for a better answer. And I got to say, one of the things that's really interesting for me right now is watching movies from the 30s and 40s and seeing how much of that shit is circling exactly
what's
back
something
around.
like, or just like a detail or a theme, or like just what's something you've noticed from the 30s that...
Oh, I mean, just on my little shelf up front, The Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah.
You know, if if they tank the economy the way they seem to be trying to, you don't want to be in the grapes of wrath. You don't want to be, you and 15 other family members on the back of a rickety truck trying to go somewhere where maybe there's a job.
Right.
Or Lifeboat,
Yeah.
which may be one of my favorite. It might be my favorite Hitchcock movie.
Yeah. I've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
It all takes place on a lifeboat during World War II. That just got the ship just got sunk by a Nazi submarine, and the last 8 survivors are on this boat. And oops, how'd that Nazi get on there? And do we beat him to death or what? So there are all these moral questions inside this ensemble piece that I think reflects directly on where we are right now. But movies are unfrozen moments because they're moving, and you get to see how people looked and talked and felt and lived and died, and it's just so amazing. Yeah. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. That was really fun.
I've heard the whispers from Zoe, so I've heard about you in passing from Zoe, so it's cool
right on.
to see you in flesh. Yeah.
It was good stuff?
Yeah, good to know. Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Okay, yay. Of all of the parts of this place, and I love every speck of this place, the thing that I think is most amazing is the cult section and the horror section. So we've got horror directors, we've got horror series, but then what they do is they break this shit down. So, follow me over here. So what they got is, they've broken it down into categories. You got horror anthologies, body horror. You've got coastal horror, creature features. You got your demon section. You got your vampire section. You got your werewolf section. You've got found footage. You got ferocious fetuses. You don't want to miss the ferocious fetuses. You've got killers that won't die, killer kids, a whole section of killer kids. Hiss, hiss, fang, fang. I'm guessing that involves snakes. Nature's Revenge, right next to the mummies. No Exit. Perverted science. Basically, they've broken it all down into the important subcategories, which I think makes horror movie consumption 50 times funner. And then you go around the bend here, and this is all the stuff that they just didn't, it's got spooky spiders. It's expanding all the time. The werewolves are all the way over here. Then you come in the back. Then you wind up in the cult section, and the cult section is really fucking fascinating because this is the stuff that doesn't necessarily fit anywhere else. It's where you get your Andy Milligans next to your Russ Meyers, next to your Ted Mickles, your Jack Hills, your Frank Henenlotters. Some of these guys could easily go in the horror section, but what they got is their own section because they're so fucking weird. Just basically... Oh, and you get down to Euro sleeves. We even got Betty Page bondage stuff. You got everything that you want. This is the best fucking place in the world. That's all I'm saying.